Be like Mikey. Hey, good afternoon to all of our market rebels and to all of our YouTubers out there. And it's that time again. It's the closing bell, and looks like we closed up about 0.5% on the SPY. Actually, we're a couple of minutes past. We had just a touch of a technical difficulties there, but I think we're through it now, so we apologize for that. But we wanted to talk about today a really, really cool topic, one that Stu and I hear a lot about. So I think everybody's going to learn a lot. But as always, let's go to Chalk Talk. Let's get into our huddle here with the coaches huddle. And today we've actually got two questions. It's really a related question, kind of a part A and B. So here's
part A and B. They're together.
Kind of the one long question. So you invest $10,000 and you make $2,000 in one day. And the question is, that's pretty sweet when that happens. Is this a good trade?
Hold on. I got to get my calculator out. Let me figure out what that percent return is.
I think it would be 20.
20. There you go. Okay.
Of course, annualized would be off the charts. All right. So I want everybody to jot down an answer. Remember, that's part of the deal because that's going to commit you to an answer. That's super important. Now, once you get that answer, we're going to flip over to part B, which is really the same question, but now you lose $1,000 in 2 months. Is this a good trade? And I know what some people are thinking, Stu. These guys got to be up to something because it's obviously not a good trade. Hold that thought. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. The perception of how a professional trader would look at what constitutes a good trade. And it's really going to give you a different perspective about risk management, which is really what this whole game is about. So,
and I have a great story for it somewhere in here. I'll tell it. And
all right, we want to hear it. We love all the flow trading stories. So we're going to call it Nice Trade. And the reason we call it this is because Stu and I hear this all the time. We'll hear somebody, could be in a chat box or somewhere, just out having conversations, and somebody will say something like this. Oh, and I made 20% in a day, or I invested $10,000 and I made $2,000 in a matter of hours. And I go, wow, nice trade. Well, really, how are you judging that? And that's what we want to look at here today, is to understand what should you be looking at, what constitutes a nice trade. So let me give you just some starters, some little things to think about. Let's say we've got a stock down here at 100, and you buy it at 100 and it's trading at 103 sometime in the future. Could be hours later, a week later, whatever. Is this a good trade? Well, you say, well, I'm still in it. I haven't sold it. How would you classify that? All right, well, what if it goes later, you decide to hold it, it goes to 105? Is that a good trade? You might say, well, I haven't sold it. Don't really know. Well, what if it goes to 105, or I'm sorry, drops to 104 and you sell it? Is that a good trade? Well, you could say I did better than at 103, but I didn't do as well as 105. All right, well, then how do you classify that? Is that a good trade? But then you get out at 104, and a couple of months later, it's trading at 200. Now, how do you feel about 104? Or let's go back to 103. Back when the first time you didn't sell it, and you do sell it, and it drops to 90. And people, man, I sold this thing at 103, and a few days later, it was down at 90. Oh, man, nice trade. But what if a short time later, it's also back at 200? Now, how do you feel about it? So what we're trying to show you here is, how would you really classify it? Just because you got something out at a profit? Is that really, or you sold it at the high, or you dodged a low? Is that really what makes it a nice trade, or is that more luck?
And does it really matter how you?
And
does it really matter? Does it matter what kind of name you give it?
Correct.
You know, you got to look at. You got to look at how you're managing that trade, what your goals, what your ambitions are, where you think the stock might be going. The idea that you can get in, you can get out, but there are varying degrees to which you do it. You know, saying I got in at 100 and I got out at 103, you might say, oh, well, I made 3%, right? If that's the stock. But if you got in with an option that was $3 and that option went to $5 and you made 2% on the 3, and then you made $2 on the 3, you might say, well, I made 67%. But, you know, look, at the end of the day, maybe you made more money with the stock than you did with the option. all these, it's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise in here, and it doesn't have anything to do really with managing the trade.
Right.
You know, being able to say, wow, really nice trade. And I think Bill's going to show you an example somewhere in here about making some money. You know, look, it's the risk that you're taking to make the money. And what are you going to do with the risk, with that risk that we're talking about as the trade progresses? The money comes later. The money's
a result,
an effect of what you're doing. It's not. Right. The trade has to come first. So go ahead. That was long. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, those are exactly the comments that we're going to be making here. So what makes a great trade? Some things that traders would say, well, the profit. Well, is that really true? What about predicting the direction? Well, I thought the stock was going up. It went from 100 to 103. Yeah, I know it eventually collapsed to 90, but I was right. I just didn't get out at the right time, but it was still a really good trade. Just because you predicted the direction.
Bill, can I have a trade that actually has a loss and still be a great trade?
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Okay. That's something to throw out there. Here. Think about that, people.
Is it the potential edge? Now, remember, the edge is really a theoretical. Just because you go, oh, I'm selling an option at 30% vol when the historic is 20%, does that necessarily mean it's a great trade? Even if you made a profit, you don't think that 30% could go to 50%? We never entertain the role of luck. We just say, oh, it must be all me. I knew the volatility was high, I sold it, and I made money. So what happens, it starts developing this false sense of confidence because people don't really know how to judge a great trade. And so that's really what we want to kind of have this discussion about today, and just to help you make better decisions. So the thing, as Stu mentioned, a great trade is really all about risk management. As we've talked about before, I like to make the analogy that you're a poker player and the cards are constantly being dealt. Being a professional poker player is not about trying to predict which hand you're going to get. Any rank amateur can beat the very best professional on any given hand. And I don't think any newbie poker player would say, I've got some kind of special skill. They'd say, it was just luck. And the professional trader wouldn't be the least bit offended. He'd say, it's just luck. What the game is about is doing it for hundreds and hundreds of hands and see how the risk management plays out. But you know what, Stu? Options traders never see it that way, do they?
Not too often. And I will tell you that I've met a lot of poker players, bridge players, backgammon players through the years. And those are the people that get it. You know, those are the people that do the best. Those are the people that understand the game. Yeah. Because in order to play the game of poker, you have to understand what probability really means, what probabilities are, sure. That's the whole game. How to accept a probability, to recognize whether it's a speculative kind of a trade or whether you're playing with the probability. Those are the people that really do the best. The poker players make the best option traders. And it's not by accident, it's because they understand probabilities.
And understand that that's really where the game is played. It's not about predicting the hand that you're going to be dealt. However, whether you're doing blackjack or poker or anything, there is some element of that where you could kind of count cards. Why? Because the cards in a deck never change. However, in the stock market, that's not true. It's as if we're playing with one deck one day and then two decks the next, and then we remove the aces, then we throw in some jokers. You really can't even come up with a probability. And that's why I said earlier that is it about that you have this implied edge just because you sold an option at 30% volatility when the historic's 20? Well, but how do we know that it's not going to be 40? We don't really know the cards that we were dealt. So it doesn't necessarily make it a great trade just because you sold an option that appears to be at high vol and just because you made money. All that does is it gives people false confidence.
We touched on this last week. We touched on the idea that the business of options has curvature to it. And the risk that you take on when you put a trade on is dynamic, and it changes day to day, sometimes minute to minute. over time, over stock price movement, over implied volatility changes, that risk changes. And you have to be able to see that. You have to be able to recognize that things are changing so you can make adjustments on the fly. So you're where you want to be when you can, as time permits. Everybody has a little different lifestyle, but you have to be able to be there to make adjustments when they're called for. And in order to make those adjustments, you have to understand that your risk has probably changed, and that you need to adapt to a new current environment that happened because something happened, because the stock price moved, because time went on, because implied volatility, maybe because interest rates changed. We've had a big move in interest rates over the past 6 months. Maybe interest rates changed, and you need to make an adjustment to a very row sensitive position. And that may be as well. But if you're not recognizing what those risks are, and that they're dynamic in nature, and that they've changed, then you're way behind the 8 ball.
Absolutely.
And that's not
so
good.
For anybody who's new out there, please remember, if you like this type of information, we got lots of great classes for you. Please check it out, marketrebellion.com/get started. I can't emphasize this enough, the importance of the education. Lots of people out there try to tell you about the red light, green light thing, and how we can just predict markets and buy calls when everything's going up or puts when they're going down.
No.
It doesn't work. You got to be educated. You have to know how to play those markets. So check it out. Gets you some good free information. So one of my favorite quotes from Carl Richards, Stu, I love this. Risk is what's left over when you think you've thought of everything. And it's
so appropriate.
Such a great way. I know we've talked about the one from Elroy Dimson saying that more things can happen than will happen. And you have to say, this is a beautiful way of saying it. Just because you've thought of everything doesn't mean that's all that can happen. There are far more things that you never even thought about, maybe because they've never even happened. Like 911 is a great example. How is that ever thought of? There's always these possibilities for other things to come out of the woodwork. And we have to remember that the real risk is the risk of the unknown. It's the things you never really thought of.
This is so pertinent. The what's going on in the banking sector these days. You have people that had positions in those two stocks. What were they? Signature, and what was the other one? That was Silicon like 300. Valley. Yeah, Silicon Valley. That had option positions that they wanted to exercise an option, a put. They had a put, right? The stock was like $150 or whatever it was, and they had a put and they wanted to exercise it. And there was a lot of question running around with OCC, with the brokers, like, what are they going to do with it? The stock wasn't trading. They couldn't cover it. If you exercised it, they had to get a lend. You had to put up the margin. It was things that even after 40 years, I mean, I was reading about it and I'm thinking like, holy crap, I didn't even really think that would be possible, that you wouldn't be able to exercise this option and cover it sometime down the road when they open the stock. But were they really going to have a stock that's going to open at zero or close to zero, and I have 100 strike price put and not let me exercise it? I mean, are you kidding me?
Without posting a large margin. Yeah, without posting a large margin.
Without posting a large, and if you didn't have the cash to put up the margin, then we're going to say, you're out. Really? Is that really going to happen? I mean, were you really going to think about that? Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't have. It's crazy things happen, right?
Yep. And so that's really, if you get nothing else from that, we can't really say what those things are. It's just the fact you have to realize, well, there's a good chance I haven't thought of everything. And that's really the best idea to carry with you as what is risk. So one of the things that will help you to understand what is a great trade, there's risk that we know and things that we can control. There's a lot of things that we can control, but of the risks that we can control, this is what your trading decisions are about. All right. It cannot be about the things that we don't know, the unknown unknowns. And it's not just about everything that you can control, because some of those things don't matter. We can only control the risks that we know about. And of course, those always change. So that's why Stu and I always make the analogy of, again, a poker player or a blackjack player. As the cards are being turned over, you're getting new information, you're updating it, and you are changing your positions based on how those cards are dealt. That's a professional trader's view. Most of the retail traders don't do that. They go, oh, the stock's moving against me. What do I do? I think it's going down, but I've got a bullish position. All right, well, maybe we should flip the direction, flip our deltas.
Yeah,
they don't think that way. They just go, it's going,
They call it a deer in the headlights. That's what we used to call it on the floor. What are you, a deer in the headlights? Look, make the adjustment, man. You know, do what you have to do to get where you want to be. Oh, well, let's see. If I roll this option, it's going to cost me $14. Really? Yep. Really? You're going to put yourself right back into a bullish position when you really want to be short just because you need to roll for $14, even though you're trading cash for cash? Come on. You got to know how this stuff works.
Yep. They get focused on that word credit. So anyway, part of what we were trying to convey to you, we thought of a nice little analogy here. Here's a tale of two drivers, right? So kind of the same chalk talk question, but we have two drivers who take separate trips. One driver arrives safely, and a second driver wrecks the car. Right? So think about it. Who is the better driver?
I knew you were going to ask that.
I know.
Okay, go ahead.
But it fits in perfectly with the point that we're trying to make. All right, so here we go. Got your answers? Driver number one is a 16-year-old kid who just got his license and drives 100 miles an hour in rain to, let's say, Miami, because he's in a rush, and gets there safely. All right, so that's driver number one. Driver number two.
Looks like Vegas. Looks like the Vegas Strip, dude.
Oh, kind of is a Vegas Strip. Maybe he's driving that way in Vegas. All right, we'll make it Vegas. I was trying to make it relevant to here, but I think you're right. I think we'll make it, because this is how they drive down here. I know that I'm 95. They drive 100 miles an hour is the average. So anyway, there's driver number one. Driver number two is driving in icy roads, sometimes what's called black ice. You can't even see it. Super, super dangerous. But this guy's a professional race car driver or a stunt driver, got unbelievable driving skills. And he gets hit from behind. And the car goes into a bad swerve. He's heading downhill, about to go off a cliff. But because he knows how to control the car under bad conditions, he safely is able to get it off into a ditch, hits a tree, and brings it to a stop. But he does wreck the car. All right, so now with that information, who is the better driver? Who exhibited better skills and better judgment? You see the difference? And hopefully it's making you go, maybe this guy is actually the better driver. Maybe we should be going, man, you are unbelievable. I can't believe you pulled that thing out of that skid. Anybody else would have gone flying off the mountain, and you brought it, you saved everybody. Big deal about the car because of good driving skills. Would you really praise that 16-year-old kid driving in the rain at 100 miles an hour just because he arrived safely?
And call him a good driver?
Call him a good driver and making good decisions? See, that's why Stu and I always kind of cringe when people just immediately go, I bought this option at 5, I sold it at 7. Everybody goes, wow, nice trade. Well, there's other things we have to consider. How much risk did you take? That would be a good one. So hopefully that will kind of be something that will stick in the back of your mind before you start assessing trades. So back to risk management. The profit is a function of the skill set. Just like the outcome of those two drivers, it's really a function of the skill set. The first guy got lucky. But if you do this over and over, which is presumably what you're doing when you're trading, you're going to find out where the skill sets are. So the thing to remember is that trade management comes first and profit comes from the management. We don't just talk about the profit and then say, oh, it was a great trade. We have to account for the risks. So another great quote from Nassim Taleb, author of Black Swan and a number of other good trading books. Having an edge and surviving are two different things. The first requires the second. And that is just beautifully said. It's exactly what you were just talking about, Stu.
Yeah, you got to hold on to it. You got to be able to navigate the waters. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. You can't just sit there and say that, oh, I've got an edge and therefore it was a great trade.
No.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. And that's, again, why sometimes we hesitate when a trader will say, well, should I buy this option at 20% and sell this one at 40? Wouldn't that be a great trade? I don't know.
I don't know either. And here's a good, well, yeah, but there's a reason why there's a 20% skew between the months or between the weeks.
Oh, for sure.
And that 20% skew might actually indicate to you that there is a big event coming. Right. You could sell in earnings at 80 and you could buy 2 months out at 40. But now you got to deal with the movement, right? Is that 40 skew that's in your favor enough to handle the movement?
The movement.
Think back like AMC, a couple of years ago, last year, I kind of forget what it was. It was like $40, $50 AMC. It was part of that whole GameStop thing. Right. There was tremendous edge in the implied volatility skews from month to month. You could literally sell double what you were buying, but it wasn't enough because the dollars that you were laying out to buy that skew curve that was in your favor got destroyed. It got destroyed because the stock got destroyed, and it could have gone the other way if it was the other side of the trade. So, it's just a tool. It's not enough to guarantee anything. There are no guarantees in this, but you have to be the person that says, you can't say, well, I just want to make $300 a day. Right? You have to trade the trade. And then the money comes after the trade. The money doesn't come first. The money comes after the trade. So you have to manage the trade. You have to have good setups.
Set up my profit and they go, set up my goal. That's not the way to trade.
No, it's not. It's
about managing the risk. I've used another analogy like with Vegas, with roulette. They pay off 35 to 1 if you guess a single number on a roulette wheel. Well, what a great deal. 35 to 1. You can't look at it that way. It's not enough. It should be 37 to 1. So you can't just look at the numbers and say, therefore, it's a great trade. It's more about managing the risk. So the thing that we want everybody to take from this is that it's really about setting a goal, not about how much you want per day, but you have to set goals that are really about risk management goals. And you have to find opportunities within those goals, but trade with survival in mind. Always remember that no risks are worth taking if they threaten bankruptcy. That's more of what
that doesn't necessarily that doesn't necessarily mean filing Chapter 7 or Chapter 11. That means, can I open my computer and come to work tomorrow?
Right.
That means, will I have an account that I can trade? Well, will I have an account that has enough money in it to do the trades that I want to do? That's another thing, starting out with whatever, $50,000 and you lose 80% of it, have 20% left. That might not be enough to do what you want to do. Right. Live to trade another day. Always concentrate on the loss side of the equation. Yep. And don't worry so much about the profit side.
Because also, if you don't do that, what do traders do in your case there where they lost 80%? They start taking more risk to try to make it up, and then they probably just burn out faster. They abandon their goals.
You're chasing the tail, right? You got to get it back. You got to get it back, and it's a really bad cycle.
So again, please remember, especially for anybody who's new, marketrebellion.com/get started. Lots of great courses, videos, and things to help you get started with options trading and help you to make better decisions. So let's go back to our chalk talk now. I think our audience is going to have the answers. Let's start off with question number 1, Stu. Your trader friend invests $10,000 and makes $2,000. I think I said in a day. I'm sorry, this is an old slide. Makes $2,000 in a day, but over some time.
Yeah.
Question is this a good trade?
Well, it looks like a good trade, but me being me, I'm going to say it's a horrible trade.
Well, I'm going to say I don't know, because the thing is, how much risk did you take? I mean, did you put $10,000 in lottery tickets and you just happened to squeak out a $2,000 gain? And now you're going to go boast about what a great trade it was? Fine, go do it again and then come and tell me how that one did. And again and again and 100 times and tell me how it performed. This is just pure luck. At least it might be. See, that's the thing. I don't really know just by looking at the numbers, but that's how everybody qualifies them. about how much they made in how little time. But you got to say, how much risk did I take?
It's not the metric that we should be looking at.
It's not the metric we should look at. Maybe for the risk you took, maybe you should have really made $6,000.
Yeah, then how did you do? Yeah, right. And then you're behind the 8 ball by $4,000. That stinks.
Yep.
That stinks. You don't want to be. You just don't want to. You don't want to say, "Hey, I made 2,000. That was really good. I'm going to do that again." Right? You have to be able to say, "This is the setup. This is what I was doing. This was the risk that I was taking. This is how I manipulated it. This is how I managed it." And yeah, at the end of the day, I walked away with $2,000. Yeah, nice job. Okay. If you traveled the road and that's the best you could do and come out with, then okay, then I'm with you. That's a good trade. All right. But if you bought a lotto ticket, you spent $10,000 on lotto tickets and you won. I mean, did you make a good trade? I don't know. I don't think so. But I don't know. You go. I'm getting off on a tangent here. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's really about understanding that we have to assess the risk. How much risk did you take for that reward? And traders never seem to do it. They just say, here's how much I made, and everybody chimes in and says, hey, nice trade. You got to get out of that mindset. We have to ask, how much risk are we taking? Did we risk total bankruptcy? Or risking 80%, we just happened to squeeze out a nice trade? Got to think of those things. So let's go to question number 2.
Part 2,
you invest $10,000 and you lose $1,000 in 2 months. Think about our 2 drivers. This guy might be an unbelievably skilled options trader. The trade immediately goes against him, or volatility spiked through the roof. And he said, oh, well, you know what? This isn't actually so bad because I could maybe leg into this spread by selling this high volatility. And maybe
You're making me relive my past here, Bill.
I'm sure that's going to have little reflections there for you. But the point is that you have to say, well, who's the more skilled trader? Even though this person navigated through some unbelievably choppy waters and ended up with $1,000 loss, if you saw those trades, you might go, wow, this is absolutely amazing. I never would have thought about that. These are unbelievable skills to get dealt this kind of a horrible hand multiple times over and end up only losing 1,000. And yet most people, by looking at that, would say, it's a horrible trade. You lost 10% in 2 months. That's horrible.
Well, it's terrible. Yeah. Our building, our stock exchange building housed a lot of law firms. And I used to ride down to the elevator. Our floor was in the basement. My office was on the 6th floor. And I used to ride down the elevator every day down to the floor. And I kind of got to know some of the lawyers just by saying hi, how's the wife, how's the kids, whatever. And so this dude looks at me one day in the elevator and he says, man, you don't look too good. I said, I know. When the bell rings, I'm going to be out $100,000. And he says, how do you know? And I said, because I know where my options, my position dictates that I'm going to be out $100,000. He says, oh, that's terrible. Well, have a better day. Good luck, whatever he said. And then I saw him a few days later and he says, hey, Stu, how'd you do that day? And I said, I lost $20,000. And he says, oh, that's terrible.
That's terrible. I knew you were going to say that.
And I said, no, man, you're looking at it wrong. I had a great day.
Had a fabulous day.
I made 80,000 back trading during the day. All the trades I did, all the thousands of contracts I did, all the morphs and all the adjustments and everything made me 80,000. And I walked away a 20,000 loser instead of a 100,000 loser. That was a good day, even though the end of the day I was down 20,000. Right. And you might say, wow, that was a bad day. But it wasn't. It was actually a great day. It's the perspective. It's what you do.
Correct.
It's how you manage it. Is this a good trade right here that Bill has up here? Maybe. This might have been down 50. Well, not 50, but he might have been down $9,000. Right? This guy might have been down. This trade might have been down $9,000, and he walks away with $1,000 loss. I'd say he did a pretty hell of a good job.
Yep, absolutely true. No, it's absolutely true. So it's what we want to do is just show the perspective. You have to realize it's about managing the cards that you're dealt and how do we maneuver. We've talked about this before. In your example, those are sunk costs. The fact that you're down 100,000 or whatever that number is has no bearing on what happens tomorrow. It's just a new trade. And so the fact that you netted out being down 20,000, it doesn't matter. You would have been down 100. And so, yes, it was the trade management that allowed you to minimize those losses. So the thing that we just really wanted to impress upon our viewers out there.
Bill, I got a funny here. I tried to call up the option gods on that day. And I said, how can I fix this? How can I repair this trade?
Yeah.
And they told me to go play in traffic.
Yeah.
You just got to keep moving, man. You know, you got to move forward.
Right. Those are all sunk costs. What happened in the past is in the past. They're done. All you can do is go forward. So we just wanted to kind of pass that along because it is something that we hear a lot from traders, this philosophy of just judging whether it's a good trade purely on the outcome. You need to get away from that because otherwise it can start creating a false sense of confidence. Hey, I'm 10 for 10 on my trades. Let me start going double or quadruple. We have to think about things can change. There are risks we don't know about. Always live to play another day. So I hope that gives you some good things to think about. That's what we like to do here on Coach's Corner. And with that, any final comments, Stu?
As usual, know your risk.
Know your risk.
Know what you're getting into.
If
you don't know the product, here's another angle on that. If you're not really, kind of up on the product, maybe you shouldn't be trading it.
Maybe you shouldn't be trading. Like the VIX.
Like the VIX, triple levered ETFs.
Yep.
The list goes on. If you're not up on what the product is and what to expect out of movements and things that can happen to the best of your ability, think about things that can happen. Don't trade it.
Don't do it.
Don't trade.
There's always better trades out there to stick within your risk parameters.
Yeah, just pass. I don't get it. I don't understand it. All right, fine. Pass. That's it. No big deal. Sometimes no trade is the best trade.
It's absolutely true. So I hope that gives you some things to think about. That's really our main goal here, especially for everybody who likes to look at it just strictly on the outcome. And so with that, we hope you learned something. That's always our goal here. And we'll look for you next Thursday, 4 p.m. on the closing bell for Coach's Corner.
See ya.